I'm Lauren with Pack Hacker, and today we're going to be taking a detailed look at the Eagle Creek Tour Travel Pack 40 liter, which I've been testing for the last month. Let's dive in. So starting off with the materials here, we have a recycled poly diamond ripstop and a 600D poly. So kind of between all of the kind of mix of materials here, you can see that ripstop pattern all around the bag here. And it does have a decent amount of flex to it, but it does still feel really durable. The one thing that I will say about this bag in general is that it feels a little bit floppy. So even when, it's fairly packed out right now, not necessarily to its full capacity, but you can still see it's a little bit like lumpy in certain areas. And part of that is because of how the pockets are organized on the inside. So we'll walk through those in a bit, but just something to keep in mind. You can kind of see that, as I grab this handle, the material really moves with it. And then even as you really start to cinch things down, there's still a lot of flexibility kind of around the bag for things to just look a little bit goofy. So in terms of other materials here and other kind of hardware, we have unbranded zips across the board, and then all of the hardware, which you will see when we reveal this back harness system here, is a mix of Duraflex and ITW. So starting off with this front pocket, we have these like kind of makeshift lockable zippers. So they have these little holes right at the front. And what you do is you just feed the zipper pull through. And so you can open and close really easily. You don't have to do it every time if you don't want to, but if you want a little bit of lockability, then that's a nice value add there. And then same with this top pocket. So really super easy to get this in and out of that little hole. And then what we have is these two pockets of differing sizes. This top one I found was best for like the passport and the wallet kind of situation. Fits a phone really well too, but then I found myself shoving everything in that pocket. Whereas this pocket here is great for, I have a key leash, or it has a key leash, I guess, rather, attached. Nice and easy to access, easy to use. And then here is where I put my phone as well. And then there's still a decent amount of space in this pocket left. So the one thing that is nice about these pockets is that they are really easy to access. So when you have the backpack on and you flip it forward to your front, you can really get into this pocket easily, zipping and unzipping. The one thing that I don't love about it is I think that mostly that the handle is on the side of this bag in general, because if you're holding the bag by this, then that means that these pockets are facing down and anything that you have inside is at risk of falling out. Granted, you're going to be closing your zippered pockets for the most part, but it just kind of feels like an unnecessary risk to me. And then on this side, you have a water bottle pocket, but same kind of deal when you're holding this by the handle on this side, then your water bottle's facing down as well. So kind of almost wish that like only the water bottle was and then like the pockets were facing up. And so that's just sort of a small nitpick. I didn't find myself using that side grab handle a ton for carrying. It was mostly just like adjusting the bag or quick grabs, quick moves, things like that. But regardless, the pocket is still always facing down. So this water bottle pocket here has a ton of space in it. You can see these compression straps. I will open them up so that I can kind of show you how everything fits in. We have the 18-ounce hydro flask fits in with tons of room to spare up at the top. And then this one here is I want to say it's a 32 ounce. And then this one fits in, pretty much fills up the entire pocket, and then it feels really secure in here. And what's, I guess, nice about the super flexible fabric is that it starts to, you can see it moves with the water bottle when it does fill out that space. So these pockets are large enough if you wanted to stick like a tripod or something in there, you definitely could. And then what's nice about the compression straps being here as well is that you can use that for additional security around your water bottle or, around your tripod or whatever to really lock it down. So then over here we have a zipper, and this is what's going to be the expansion system. So I'll kind of show you that when we get into the actual bag itself. But that's more so just a summary of this front here. Big branding here. You can't really see it, which is really nice. So it has like a sleek look to it. I mean, if you forget the name of it, you know, you can look right there. But in general, I think this bag in general has a pretty sleek look to it that I really like. So on this side here, you'll see, unlike the compression straps on this side that have buckles, these ones do not. So these just adjust and stay in one place. Kind of a love-hate relationship with that. What's nice is that they don't go anywhere. The hard part with that is that anytime you want to access, you know, this expansion system, it is covering the zippers there. So it's a little bit of a nuisance, not anything crazy, but just, you know, something to keep in mind. And then the sizing here, we have the small medium, but there is a medium large. The small medium is really good for smaller frames and narrower shoulders, whereas the medium large is going to be for longer torsos and wider shoulders. So this one here fits great for me. It's pretty comfortable. We'll get into the harness system now. So this back panel, it actually zips closed over the entire harness system. So this is great if you want to, if you use this as a carry-on and you want to just like not bother with backpack straps when you're putting it in the overhead bin, you can do that. Or if you want to zip it away if you're going to be checking your bag. This is 40 liters and it is carry-on size, so it fits on a handful of airlines. I personally flew on Delta with this and had no issues, though Delta is a little bit more lenient with their policy. So I didn't really have any issues, but you know, if you wanted to kind of check it, then you don't have to worry about the straps. So this opens nice and easy, and then you reveal this back panel, and just kind of looking at it, it's a little bit of a cluster. It's very like overwhelming to look at. I think part of it is also just like the pattern on this mesh here. So we'll kind of go through the features of it one by one. So starting with the hip belt down here. This is a stowaway hip belt, and it adds just enough padding essentially to make it a little bit more comfortable, or I guess rather not padding, but it's a wide strap and it sits on your hips. So when I put this pack on, I'll kind of show you how it actually sits on me. But it does add a little bit of additional support that's really great. And then when you want to stow them away, they just sew into this, you know, back panel here. So I'm gonna actually leave these out for right now until I actually put the pack on. And then you have the just regular standard backpack straps. They don't detach or anything. They really just sit on the inside of this panel here. And then they have a decent amount of foam to them. You can see that it's fairly thick, kind of across the board from, you know, shoulder to the very, very bottom here. And I did find this pack really comfortable. So the trip that I took, I really had to pack it out because I was carrying a few things for people. And so, you know, I pretty much tested the limits of its capacity. And even with all of that extra weight, it was still really comfortable. But what I will say is that it was comfortable when I had things covering my shoulders, because I've worn this a couple of times with a tank top, and so I have exposed skin, and this is really scratchy. And so this is definitely not designed to be something that you're wearing with bare shoulders. And, you know, if you're traveling, you're wearing mostly t-shirts, that's not a huge deal. But, you know, whenever I did have a tank top on, I really started to notice the rub. And so that wasn't super great. But that aside, when I had it on and I had a t-shirt on, it was very comfortable. So something to keep in mind there. And then with this back panel here, it is adjustable. So it's a little Velcro panel here that just detaches. And show you kind of what it looks like on the inside. And then this slides up or down depending on what you need. So I kept it a little bit lower than, you know, the top there. I didn't want it fully touching, but you do have that granular adjustability. And then up here as well, you have load lifters. So these are also, these come in handy a lot as well. I would say this bag really does thrive in terms of comfort. I just really felt like when I had it on, it was all very like locked in and very catered to my body, which was really nice. The biggest thing was just that kind of like floppy look. And then here we have a sternum strap with a whistle on it, a safety whistle. And so this is adjustable on a slide. You pull this like little tab up, and then you can slide it up and down depending on where you need it to rest. And so again, that's sort of that granular adjustment. And then on this side over here, this is the, the panel that was covering all of it. This here is a rain fly. So I can show you how this starts to look. You just pull it right over top. And this is with the bag fully packed out. You have a little bit of space down at the bottom here that's not covered, but everything on the top is. The only issue with this is then you don't really have a way to carry the bag. And so you're looking at it and it's like, okay, so you've covered all of the backpack straps, which is fine because you have a side handle, but you've also covered the side handle. And so you really unless you want to just put your arm under it, it seems a little odd, right? That you can't just carry the bag when you have it here. I guess you can carry it over the rain fly, but I just don't really see this being super functional just by nature of the fact that it sort of defeats the purpose of being able to carry the bag while it's raining. So, if it's going to start raining and I want to put the rain fly over it, if I'm carrying it on my back, I want to be able to have it protected and carry it on my back. I don't want to have to carry it then by hand just because I don't want my stuff inside to get wet, So a little bit of an interesting feature. I mean, it's nice to have. I think if we're going to have this back panel, you might as well have the option of the rain fly. Or I guess if you're going to have the stowaway back panel, then you might as well have the rain fly in there because, it doesn't really take away from anything. And it does stay out of your way when you don't need it. So when you have everything, say you're ready to get going and you want to start carrying this backpack, you're just going to sort of shove it into this spot here. So I found it kind of worked a couple different ways. I just sort of loosely folded it up and then just started to shove. And then it just stows away right in there. And so you really don't even notice that it's around. The one thing you do notice is you can kind of feel it on your back, but it's not anything too awful. So you can see it's sort of poking through here and on the other side as well. And this is where the hip belt stows away. And so I'm going to put this on really quick though, so you can see sort of how the whole harness system starts to work or looks when it's on. And so we've got the straps like normal. And then we have the hip belt here. And then we have the sternum strap. I'm not going to bump the mic here. I'm going to move this down a little bit actually, so I don't bump you. And then we have the backpack straps and the load lifters here, which are pulled fully tight for me. And then the straps themselves. And so in general, this feels very secure to my body. I don't feel like there's a ton of pressure resting on my shoulders, and it does feel like the hip belt is lifting a decent amount off of my body. I would say it would probably feel a little bit more like it was lifting off of me if it were more resting on my hips versus on the top of my waist. So that requires a little bit of adjusting to be able to get it into the right spot, but it is fairly comfortable. I like that it's sort of this thinner material, but still thick enough, or I guess wide enough that it adds a little bit of extra comfort and support. So in general, you can kind of see it has a sort of just a saggier look to it, but it feels very secure on my body, and ultimately that's kind of what matters most, is that it's comfortable. So taking this off here, I'm going to show you how those hip belt goes in here. Similar to that bottom panel, you just sort of shove it in there. And for the most part, I left this in. And so I don't really, you can see it bulges out a little bit when everything is stuffed in there, but I never really felt it, so it wasn't a huge issue. You can't, unfortunately, spread it all the way to the top because that's when it starts to butt in with this adjustable back panel. So for the most part, when I had it on, you just kind of stick it in there, and then how it sits, it sits. So let's move on to the inside here. Actually, I'm gonna flatten this out a little bit. There we go. All right, so getting into the main compartment, just unbuckling these here, and then you have the zipper up at the top. This is a lockable zipper, so you can put your own lock in there. It also has these same pull tabs as the top, or as these front pockets here, but there's nowhere to like put them in. Like there's no hole like this. So the lockability just comes from where they meet in the center. And so you can, with the two zipper pulls, you can rest them either here or at the bottom. I personally just left them up at the top, just a little bit more convenient for myself. And then opening it up here, you essentially just have a giant dump pocket. So kind of giving a pocket tour here. What you have is this main compartment, and then I have a couple of packing cubes filled with clothing. And again, this is 40 liters, so you do have a good amount of space here. And so this is just a giant dump pocket. You can sort of feel my laptop here. This is a laptop compartment down at the base. And so, you know, when you put my laptop in there, you can kind of see that it's poking through. It fits up to a 15-inch laptop, but I have a 13. And it fits nice and snug in there, feels very secure. You can't feel it through the back panel, doesn't really impact any packing here, so it stays nice and out of the way. Also has a bit of a false bottom down there, which is nice. I guess false bottom on either side, so false top and bottom, you could say. So it sits nicely in there. And then at the very top here, you have attachment points for if you have any of their, like the Eagle Creek packet system, then that's where those items start to go. So these compression straps here are a little bit interesting as well. It's a pretty granular adjustment. I'm going to put these back in so you can see a little bit better what it starts to look like. But, you know, say you have these here, you want to lock them down, or maybe you're not using packing cubes at all, and you just want to rely on these packing or these compression straps. So this material here is what is the adjustment. So when these are fully expanded, an odd angle. It's pretty easy. That was just a weird angle for me. You have all of this space to work with. And I never found myself using this, because if we were looking at it like even expanded all the way out, that means that this top panel has to come to like here or above even, you know, that's so much height to this bag that I never found myself utilizing. And so, yeah, it's nice to have all of that extra space, but in general, I had to cinch it down pretty tight, which is ultimately what you want to do with your compression straps anyway. But then this material just sort of hung out. It's not in the way, not a huge issue, but a little bit of just like a visual thing where it just like flapped around and I didn't really know what to do with it. So I just kind of like tucked it down this way. A little bit interesting, but so that's the compression straps there. And then this top pocket sort of acts as like an additional dump pocket that's zippered in. So, you know, in here you can have like your tech pouch or your toiletry bag or your undergarments, or, you know, however you want to do it. You can sort of dump everything in here, or you can arrange it with additional pouches. What's nice about this pocket is that it has a good amount of space. So this depth that you can see from the front panel, all of this is additional space. And so what I found myself doing was filling this up with clothing as I sort of went through my trip. I put all of my dirty laundry in there, and then I kept, you know, a pouch with my undergarments in here as well. And so it just sort of acted as separate organization, which was really nice because it seems like, you know, there's a lot of bags that just have a top zippered pocket and then it's just kind of hanging out and there's not a lot of depth to it. This is almost like an entirely different compartment or a top panel. And so that was really nice to have that additional space to work with. So I'm going to stick these guys back in here just so we can look at the way it starts to pack out when we start to mess with the compression zipper. So we'll get to that right now. So with the pack as it is, all zippered up, let's say we want to expand this out and take advantage of the extra literage. So as it currently stands, this is a 40-liter pack, but it can expand out to 45 liters. So starting with the zipper on this side, where is it? It's right here. Starts there, zips around. Like I mentioned earlier, it goes underneath these compression straps, so you want to make sure that these are expanded fully out. And then you can kind of see it as I'm shifting this bag, all of my stuff on the inside is like moving around with it. And so that's what I mean when I'm saying that's a little bit saggier, is that like when I tip it this way, you can see like the whole thing starts to shift and then it starts to just kind of like lean to one side. And so It depends on how much you end up packing, but if you're not utilizing every single inch of that 40 liters, then that's when you're gonna see a little bit more movement. So we have this extra space here for this extra compartment. Go back into the main compartment. And then you can see how much taller it is comparatively. So that's really great when you're packing because you have this extra little bucket shape to work with. The downside is that this whole panel starts to pull one side down. Even when it's empty, it really does start to sag over. And so I found that it was easier if I propped this up on a pillow or something like that. You can see how much it impacts that shape, like either this or this. And you're gonna get so much of a cleaner pack if you're gonna do it this way. And then, say you get it as full as you want to, let's add this guy right on top. Then we put it right up this way, over the top of all of your packing cubes, zip it up, keep it from tipping over, and then you have to find that zipper again. Okay, so it overlaps basically from where you started. So you zip the opposite way, and it zips up nice and easy. Obviously, this pack is not as full as I can push the limits currently, but you can see how easy it is to get that compression all the way back down. And then what you want to do additionally is secure those compression straps on either side. And then you have a nice clean package to work with. And so it looks good. It has these strap keepers to slide up and down to kind of hold all of that in place. I usually kept them up and out of the way so that I can cinch down easily and then pulled them down. But it is a fairly easy and fairly simple pack to be able to work with. Aside from just being a little bit more on the lopsided side of things, it functions really well. It holds a surprisingly large amount of gear, and it's really easy to pack and kind of keep everything organized, and it just goes back to basics, but in a way that's really nice and works very conveniently for a whole range of stuff, and especially being carry-on size. It's really great if you just need something to just toss everything in and then go on a trip where you're going to be staying a little bit longer. So there you have it, the Eagle Creek Tour Travel Pack 40 liter. Thanks for keeping it here at Pack Hacker, your guide to smarter travel, and we'll see you in the next one.